Hey everybody, welcome to Bura. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about user engagement and scalability with e-learning courses. All right, welcome back. So let's take a look at the stock here. So things are down a bit again here. And yesterday, in my technical analysis, I mentioned that things had to stay where they were yesterday. And they were about somewhere around here, the 1400. And things are down about 8% since yesterday's talk. But what I want to talk about today is I want to talk about user engagement and scalability. Now, if you've been watching all the videos here, I've talked about scalability and how Udemy really isn't as scalable, and the marketplace isn't as scalable, and how that relates to the stock altogether. And the reason why is that the marketplace hasn't grown, and we know that because of their quarterly earnings here. And because of their quarterly earnings, the marketplace isn't going up, it's not scalable. And one of the things that happened really early on is that they tried to make things not scalable for instructors. And let me tell you about that here. So, for example, Netflix, YouTube, they all have user engagement, and basically it's a kind of a thing where they have user engagement equals more people spending time on the platform. Now, I would argue that this is not, it is important, but Udemy puts way too much emphasis on this. And the reason is that for the marketplace, a lot of people just buy the course, just like they buy a book. You know, I've purchased so many programming books, but I have never finished a single one. Okay, let me read that. I've never read 100% of it here. So one of the things that they look at is, you know, course completion and all that. And I would argue that it is important because user engagement is important for the e-learning industry, because if the user engagement reaches below a certain threshold, then people stop coming and they stop buying, right? But there's also an upper end where for example, the course completion, if it's too high, then it basically means that you, the content creator, can't scale because you're too busy dealing with support. Now, I actually came out with a really awesome idea called compact courses, where they were like 30 minutes here. And the idea was that the course engagement would be really, really high, right? So it's like, learn how to do something really basic in like 20 or 30 minutes. Now, everybody has that kind of time here. And so I think one of the ones was building like spaceships for your video game, right? And so I thought that was really cool. You could do it in Adobe Illustrator, and you know, you get 3 looking spaceships that look, you know, kind of good enough for your game, right? And you know, not only was the aesthetic value high, but the utility of that was high, and you could basically make your own art for your video game, right? So if you're in video games and you just want to make some simple placeholder art, or if you really like to do art and animation, then that's what it is. And so I did a few things with programming as well, like build like a little simple thing here, and I called them compact courses, and they completely failed, right? They just didn't work. And the reason why is that a 30-minute course is not going to be able to compete with like the 29 complete whatever course. And, you know, even though the engagement was really high with that. And I thought that was a really good idea. And that's one of the reasons why I think a tiered system of payment is actually really good. Because I think a lot more people would have taken those compact courses. And the idea is that you want people to buy as many of those compact courses as you can. Not only are they easy, they're useful, and they don't have a lot of support. Like, there's not a lot of questions that need to be asked, right? When someone buys the complete course, you have to get tons of questions. So one of the things that happened early on, I think this was like 2013-ish, like it was really early on. Maybe it was 2012, but I'm pretty sure it was 2013. They brought some expert in. They be, of course, Udemy. Udemy brought some expert in, and that expert was basically tasked with bringing up the user engagement here. And to be fair, at this point in time, you absolutely needed to have this kind of thing here. But what they really wanted you to do is they really needed you to like basically spend most of your time answering questions here. Now, if you're a solo instructor, and this is my whole thesis here, if you're a solo instructor, the whole thing with e-learning is that it's a volume game. While you're answering questions, you can't be making a new course, right? And so that's why you need to have a support person, and that's why you need to have a team, right? Like, I have a team of people with team support, and you know, we try to do the best job we can. right? With the limited resources that we have. And, you know, at the time, like, even now, the top instructors are just solo instructors, but they have support people. But at the time, like, no one had a support person. No one knew what was going on here. But they really, really wanted to get in that, get in all the questions here. And there was, of course, a ton of pushback here, right? Like, they were trying to make a lot of what you were going to get paid with user interaction, and that is going to be like that was the worst thing ever. And I'm glad they didn't do it. Now, the reason why it's not very good is that, again, Udemy's marketplace is more like a bookstore, and I think that's pretty much what it is. It's like kind of like a bookstore. It's kind of like a university bookstore if the books actually taught you everything and you had kind of instructor support. So the point of this is that you know, Udemy really put way too much emphasis on customer support early on, and that really killed it here. Because, and at some point in times, like in the early years, I just, you know, didn't really answer questions, right? And it didn't affect really my my income, because it was better to just produce a course. But they, of course, really didn't like that. They really wanted you to answer every single question. And for years, I didn't hire a support person because it just didn't make economic sense. And I told them this again and again and again. I can't hire a support person because it doesn't make sense financially. And they just didn't care. They really just did not care about, you know, my financial situation, which is kind of weird. The marketplace, again, they have to look out for their own interests, but they really should just be like, they need to just be kind of like the shepherd of the money that kind of flows in here. I mean, they get, you know, it's more like if you have a farmer's market here, like the farmer's market can't take too much or else nobody would go, right? It's that kind of thing. And I've talked about this again and again and again, that if they make the restrictions a lot less on the App Store, on their marketplace, then you'll probably see a lot more companies come in, and you'll see a lot more support because it'll be financially viable to do that here. Now, there's, of course, one of the other things is that they put a lot of emphasis on, they put just too much emphasis on that student engagement here. And the other thing that really confuses me is that when you go to Udemy, you know, they don't really have a tab that says which is the most engaging course, right? So, why not, right? So if I was a prospective student, I would say which course has the most engagement, and I'm going to go buy that course, right? And other people might say which course makes the most money. I'm going to go buy that one because obviously money equals, you know, the quality here, right? Those are two kind of different people, and they just don't allow that. And I don't really know why. I don't know why they don't have that here. Maybe it's because some of these instructors, you know, are really good engagement, and they would, you know, move their way up the algorithm. But that's kind of the whole point. And the whole point is that, like, the algorithm on YouTube or the App Store, specifically the App Store or Steam, they're a lot more transparent. Like, you know that if you sell more than the next person, you're going to be moved up in the algorithm here. So, you know, and the App Store is very much like that. You know, the number one spot in the App Store has the most downloads. It's just what it is. It's like it's a mathematical number. And that just doesn't happen on Udemy, right? They put far too much emphasis on reviews. They put far too much emphasis on student engagement, and it really does hurt the platform. Now, what they do want to do is get those reviews and engagement up for their UFB, which is totally fine, but they really need to make the marketplace more like the App Store or Steam. And if they do that, they'll probably, you know, their goal should be to make $1 billion a quarter, or about $4 billion a year. And I just don't see a way that they can do that without loosening the restrictions and getting in a lot more people to make scalable companies, which is something that, you know, is not, that can't be done right now. So, in conclusion, one of the things that's happened over the years is that Udemy has put far too much emphasis on student engagement. Now, you have to have a minimum floor, and if you go below that floor, that's really bad. But there's also kind of a maximum where where the companies just can't support it from an economic point of view. And if they can't support it from an economic point of view, then what's the point of doing that? You can't force the people to lose money. Like, you just can't do that, right? I mean, you can try. There's like Uber tried to do that, but there's a lot of pushback on that, right? So, unlike Steam or the App Store where there's billion-dollar companies, that's B with the billion-dollar companies, and maybe the top few instructors make a few million a year on Udemy, and we really need to have like a massive e-learning company on Udemy. That's what they really need to do here, right? Now, of course, if they just loosen the restrictions, then the student engagement will go through the roof, because if you make student engagement a part of the if you make it scalable, then if you make the marketplace scalable, then student engagement is going to go up, right? Quality is going to go up, and that's really the key and what Udemy's missing, and that's why. In addition to a lot of other things, is that people aren't liking the stock as much, right? So that's something that you need to understand here, all right? So that concludes this video. I want to know your thoughts down below. Please comment. This channel doesn't get enough comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.